Arizona State, coming off back-to-back 3-9 seasons, has entered a new conference and made it all the way to the title game, taking on Iowa State, as these two were the two selected through the tie-breaking process out of a four-way tie to reach the conference championship game. And this is a winner-take-all deal. The loser is out of the CFP. The winner, of course, will have a top four position in the buys, most likely. That's a story for another day. We got Steve Merrill here from Wager Talk to help us break it down. Steve, we've got Arizona State, hot football team right now. It's a 2-point favorite, and Iowa State, after a win against Kansas State, is their opponent in the Big 12 championship game.
And you hinted at this earlier, Mark, when we did the Penn State-Oregon breakdown for the top two of the top three teams in the rankings, technically the biggest game of the week, that Oregon actually might benefit by losing because they'd get the winner of this game eventually if they get by the 12 seed. They'd have to play the extra game, but you make a good case that once you get by the 12 seed, you'd have a much easier round of 8 matchup. 15th ranked Arizona State, 16th ranked Iowa State, and one of them is going to end up a 4th, I guess. You follow this a lot closer than me. I'm kind of waiting for it all to play out. I'm not even worried about how this seeding stuff works because they'll tell me who's playing next week, and we'll see point spreads on those games. I'll start digging into them. But this one's interesting. First, let's start with my simulation. I've got Arizona State winning by just a point on average. So the 1.5 to 2, which is the current line, looks a little inflated. With that said, though, if you're going to play this, I would still rather lay it with Arizona State. I think they're the better team overall. Looks strange as can be on paper to see Iowa State and Arizona State playing in the Big 12 championship game. I mean, it just doesn't even make sense. But then you start breaking the numbers down. Let's start with conference games. Arizona State is +8, Iowa State +8. But then you start looking at the yards per play, which I think is a much better indicator overall than points per game. Arizona State's outgained their conference opponents 6.3 to 5.3 yards per play. Iowa State has been outgained 5.8 to 5.9 in all conference games this season. So they're a mediocre team at best. You look at the overall seasonal numbers, they average 6 yards per play against a weak schedule that gives up 5.9. Arizona State gives up just 5.1 yards per play. And overall this season, they've given up 5.4. Arizona State, once again, just 5.1. They average 6.2. So I think Arizona State's actually better on both sides of the ball on a yards per play perspective. They also have the more balanced attack. You look at this Iowa State passing attack, the 7.8 yards per pass would normally seem pretty impressive, but they've done so against teams that allow 7.7. Arizona State gives up just 6.3. So if Iowa State gets behind in this game, which I think they will, they're going to have a tough time catching up with the lack of a passing attack. Even though it's pretty much on my number here, I think there is value still with Arizona State as long as it stays below a field goal.
Steve's got his complete work, of course, at wagertalk.com. And you can catch that with the NFL, college football, and the NBA in play, college basketball as well, of course, with Steve there again at wagertalk.com.